6 months ago, Atiq came to me and he was making 4.6k a month. Now that might sound decent to you on the surface, but let's crunch the numbers a little bit and actually look into how he was running it at that moment. So, you see, he was shooting every piece of content himself. Literally editing it, writing every caption, scheduling every post, managing every client conversation, and he was managing 9 to 10 at the time. 70 hours a week with 9 to 10 clients and making 4.5k a month. With no team, he was just solo. Now, to put it into perspective, he was doing roughly around 50 pieces of content per client, and his average pricing back then was 400 to 650 pounds. Yeah, I know, 50 pieces of content per client per month for 650 pounds. That is not how an agency should be run. It's more so, it's literally a hostage situation. The client literally has leverage and power over you at this point. You can't let that slide. Now, if we look at where Atiq is today, or let's say 6 months after he was finished with the program, he is now at 10k months with less clients that he is working with and servicing. So with less clients, that means less hours but more money. And he has a team, a videographer, a social media manager. He is now able to take himself away from working in the business where he's not at shoots anymore. Clients are coming to him through content creation alone, which I'm going to dive into later, which is very interesting. No paid ads, no cold outreach, and his lowest package is higher than his highest package when it was 6 months ago when he first joined us. Nothing viral happened. There was no crazy hack. There was no cheat code. There was no lucky break. Quite simply, we just built him a machine, a very well-oiled machine that worked very well for me to take my agency to 30k months, and it's worked for dozens of others. And to no surprise, it's also worked for Atiq. Now look, in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how that journey unfolded, call by call, phase by phase, because normally I know I like to do the breakdowns where I kind of go very deep into it, but I thought let me try go through the timeline of our first call to the last call and what actually happened in between and what the changes he made were. Now look, if you're a freelancer or agency owner and you're stuck between the 3 to 6k a month mark, doing everything yourself, charging under a grand, working disgusting hours and not getting that time to yourself, and you're wondering why the hell nothing is growing, and you're seeing all of these clips of all these other guys doing it, well, this video's for you. So grab your popcorn, put your feet up, enjoy, and let's dive straight into it. Let's take it to the start. The first time we hopped on our onboarding call, so this was just like a week after he onboarded, so we like to move things quick in the actual program. March 2024, his revenue was at 4.6k a month. He had one package, and that was literally 650 pounds. And for that, it was the daily stories, 3 to 5 reels, full social media management, editing, filming, uploading, approval flows, everything literally. So 650 pounds per month is what he was charging, and he's delivering roughly 46 pieces of content. That comes to 14 pound per piece of content. Now, before tax, before any softwares, before the hours he spent on actual client communications, on ideation, on actual shoot time, marketing his own page, trying to find new business, that isn't, I mean, you tell me, would you be happy with 14 pound per piece of content and you're doing all of that work for the business? I hope you're saying no, because hopefully this is shedding some light into how things are being run. But this is not the right way to do it. Now, when I first heard this, it was crazy, because when on the audit, I actually need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the actual students themselves before we hop on the first onboarding call. And he shared a lot of assets where he was doing really, really good results for his clients, where they were getting crazy number of views, all organic. He didn't even know how to do paid ads. That was a really good strength of his. Now, if only he knew how to tie that strength to his offer and then maneuver an outcome for that offer, then 1500 would be the minimum he can charge for, because he was producing like tens, hundreds of thousands of views. And if you're telling me you're charging 400 pounds, 600 pounds, 650 pounds for that, the business owners are laughing because they've got a bargain, and he's the one suffering at the expense of their benefit. And again, it has to be a mutual benefit for the two parties in business. So yeah, I told him 1500 pounds is now going to be another price point in our offer that we're going to produce for you. So his response was crazy to me, because he was basically saying that's way too high, or like he was questioning if that is too high.
So do you think as well, so let's say I did get, do you think the 1.5 is too high?
And that one question told me everything, because if you believe your own price is too high, everything downstream is going to break, because the way you're speaking on these conversations with the clients, your tonality, your confidence drops, your negotiation anchor will weaken. The market will feel that insecurity and that weakness, and they will bite at you like crows, ready to eat. Now look, it was pretty evident the problem wasn't his skill, it was just that he didn't know how to deliver the right offer to his clients and how to actually find the right clients that could afford it. Because serving clients at £400 and then serving another set of clients in the same niche at like 2-3x the price, it's not the same conversations. It's not the same. It is the same market, but it's a different perception they will have on you, which you need to now step up to. But if you don't know how to do it, then how will you know, kind of thing. So yeah, everything kind of revolved around the architectural structure of how he was doing things. Now the entire model was built in a way right now, if you continue to get another client or two, it will literally snap. He wouldn't carry on. He wouldn't be able to carry on running the business at that point. So let's say he was this black dot. If I was to draw how he was able to scale and how his up and down journey was before he came to me, he mentioned it was something like this. Months were stable, he'd dip down, and then let's say if he did pick up the one or two more clients, he'd be able to sustain it for a little bit. Don't get me wrong, things may look great, but then it just come crashing down. It will spike up again. He doesn't know what he's doing, what systems to run. Clients are leaving him. Clients said they're signing a 6-month contract, but they're leaving after the first month, and it's just going to go up and down, up and down. And all of this will happen at the expense of just 2 new clients at £650. So we rebuilt it. And I want to walk you through the 5 phases of exactly how that happened. Will cause this fluctuation and dips in his business. Now, most people in a Atiq situation will think the answer is to pick up more clients. But it's not. Because if he literally just signed on 2 more clients at £650, he'd be working 50 hours plus per week. And the model would have collapsed at around 7 to 8K a month, because he was here at this point where the black dot is. And if you did take it to 7 to 8K months, you may have sustained it for a bit, and then it would have came crashing down. And then it would have came crashing down further because the model has just completely snapped, and he's just going to go in this upward spiral and downward spiral of not knowing where the business is, why it doesn't grow beyond a certain point, and it's just going to cause him a lot of stress. So the first thing we addressed wasn't sales, it wasn't content, it was literally his operation. Now we sat down and I asked him, out of everything you're doing, what is draining the most time? So we had to map out every single task he was responsible for. The shooting, the editing, the scheduling, the captions, the marketing, the sales, the check-ins with the clients, everything relied on him. Now from there we identified which tasks needed to come off of his plate first, and who those tasks should go to, and what the business can actually afford right now without putting him in a vulnerable position. Now we built a phased hiring plan, not go and hire 3 people tomorrow, but a sequenced plan of who comes in first, at what cost, at what hours, and what revenue threshold do we add that next person in. And the principle was simple. Start small, we'll drip feed the responsibility in as time goes on, we'll increase the hours later as business grows, because we don't want to give someone full-time commitment when the revenue isn't there yet. And it gives a good time for the staff member, the A player, to build that time and connection and bond with the brand, with the owner, Atiq, in this situation. But look, here's a shift that mattered more than the actual hiring itself, because when clients were looking at Atiq, before they just saw one man doing everything. And when you're just one man, clients will think, you know what, £500-600, that's more than enough. That should be more than enough for you to do everything for me that I need you to do. But the moment the perception changes from freelancer to agency, from it's just me doing everything, to now my team handle this, to now we're able to dedicate more hours on your business to achieve this said outcome, the pricing conversation will completely change. Clients are happy to pay these rates where you are more organized, where they can see you have a visible infrastructure in place. They don't care about you just being one-man band and they'll pay you these sympathy rates of £300-400 just to help you get your feet up. But if you're talented and you know you can do the work, why are you accepting that? So once we had the operational blueprint in place, now we can then set the offer out properly. So we understand that he obviously had one package, and that was at the £400 to £650 per month mark. We then decided to stop selling the deliverables, and instead we allowed him to be comfortable knowing what the outcome he is now going to sell to his niche will be. So now I'm not going to walk you through the exact pricing and structure, because that was tailored to his specific niche and to his specific workload capacity and his strengths and weaknesses and his margin targets. But more importantly, this is where most agencies or videographers will get things wrong. And it's essentially stopping the deliverables and knowing exactly what your offer is providing to the business. And we had to cancel out the whole, 3 reels per week or 6 stories per week and all that nonsense. It was now based on what we've seen with similar clients between month 1 and 3. This is what typically happens. So you see, I've been in this game for too long, and I know whenever I used to pitch deliverables, it just used to invite negotiation. But instead, when you now have outcomes, the outcomes will invite trust, it invites authority, and they now see you as the person, as the team, as the go-to individual to produce them the results they need. For his existing underpaying clients, he mentioned to me that around 5 of them were paying around the £400-500 per month mark. So the plan was, sign the first new client at the new price point, to build the confidence up. Then go back to the low paying clients and transition them. Now if they stay, that's great. But if they don't, that's even better. Because we're now allowing us to have more time to make space for the higher ticket clients, but we're also allowing us to have better margins, more time given back into spending on the business rather than in the business. You cannot build an agency on retainers paying you these amounts. The maths will never work, because even with those 5 clients alone, he was making 2 grand just off of these 5 clients, and he was working 60 hours per week. But if you flipped it, and let's say out of the 5, 3 of them decided that they couldn't afford it, that's fine. One client signed on for £1,000 and another client signed on for £1,500. That's now £2,500. But you're working with less of the workload you used to for the similar amount of price, and at only 30 hours a week. So hopefully that kind of puts things into perspective for you guys now. So cool, now we have the team plan, we know exactly what the offer is. Let's go down into exactly how we can allow prospects to find him and for them to believe that he is worth every single penny he is asking for. Now, we obviously, on the actual audit call, we understand exactly how he is doing things to find out where the leaks are, where are the holes in the bucket, which is allowing him to know, which is stopping him from growing. Now I looked at his Instagram, and again, to no surprise, it was all graphics, all Canva posts, there was no proof, there was no face attached to him, there was no video content, no personality. And there's no reason for his ICP to ever stop scrolling on his page and to ever consider working with him. Now you need to think of your page as a shop window. If someone walks in or someone walks past and there's nothing compelling enough to make them stop, come in, ask questions, then they're going to go. So we immediately scrapped the graphic content entirely and rebuilt his page around video content. This was him talking, this was him at actual shoots, live on shoots, him able to discuss and explain the results he was providing for clients from position A to outcome B, and actually explaining what that approach is, that unique mechanism. Now, here's a piece I'll share because it's something most videographers and freelancers will not think about. Now, I told him, give your strategy a name. So you know how you get your clients' results, you know the process, name it. So when a client asks, how do you do this? You don't say, oh, I just make videos. You can now confidently say, we've refined our strategy over working with 15 clients and it's called X. Let me break it down for you. That is what will separate you from the 15,000 other people in the market who say they can make content just like you. This is what will position you as someone who has a method, not just a camera. And the content system itself actually had a structure to it. We mapped out exactly what his shop window, his Instagram page, needed to communicate at each stage. From first impression all the way to the point where someone will actually reach out. Not random posts, a system actually designed to take his ICP from who this person is, first impressions, to all the way to actually making the decision to commit of, I need to speak to this guy. Nothing was forced. This was all organic. This was the actual buyer themselves convincing them of that decision. And critically, when the videos were up, the offer was clear, because sending traffic to a broken shop window will just lower your close rate. So first we need to refine the clarity, and then we can pile in on the traffic. So fast forward to May 2025. 2 months in, the foundations were set. Now things started moving. He finally signed a client in Derby, and this guy was a food court. He was connected with multiple businesses within the food court, and that one relationship just opened the doors up to allowing him to work with the other business owners in that food court. But now that his foundations were set and clear from the beginning, when they speak with him, when they have the conversation with him, it will be so much easier than if he was to start it then, if that opportunity came to him then. So here's what he did that separated him from how he would have handled this before. He didn't try to close all of them. He immediately said, let me prove what I can do with this one shoot first, and then we can talk with the rest of them. And the reason why he was able to do that, because he was confident in his offer, he was confident in his delivery, and he was confident in his operations. When you have clarity from the get-go of what you are, who you can serve, and how you can serve them, you think so much better. You think so much clearer. And this was his own initiative, by the way. And that's the beautiful thing, because when you work one-to-one, and from me seeing this happen in so many of the other students, is that your identity will start to shift and you become a whole different person by the end of the program. And that's so beautiful. And it's so amazing to see, because these things can't be taught over YouTube videos. These things can't be taught over courses. This is one-to-one connections that we've developed and built. And from seeing it live in person and from actually adapting it over these calls, he's now able to execute and really picture it himself. And we've seen it happen here. So To no surprise, 3 months later, they loved his work, they loved what he was producing for them, they loved everything that he was doing. And they said, you know what, we'll give you the rest of them because we want to work with you. We want to establish a long term relationship. We only see you guys as the extension to our marketing department that can help us achieve the goal we want for our brand. Now, the workload at this point was real because you can imagine 12 to 16 clients, 65 stories a week, 30, 40 odd hours a week on content production alone. But the difference now was that he wasn't carrying it alone. Every week, more tasks were coming off of his plate, but it was going on to someone else's in his team. So let's fast forward now to June in 2025, where he had a significant spike in numbers. Now, March was 4.6k, and June at this moment in time was 9.3k. 3 months later, and his income nearly doubled. Your current rev last time was around the 8k.
So around 9,350.
Now, here's the part that I want to show you of exactly what I meant when you become a whole different person. Now, he had two clients come to him, both pitched at £1,500 a month, and he signed them on. And the funniest thing was that when he told me how he signed them on, he was like,
The maddest thing is both these clients are literally after the meeting within half an hour they're like, yeah, cool. Like,
and then he said something that summed up literally the whole journey of why we do this and why we even do the whole one-to-one is that some of these guys that are paying him now 950, if he didn't adopt this new mentality of becoming a new person, this identity, he would have still said £650 to them. And they would have said, can we do it cheaper? And he would have budgeted it down to £450 or £550. But that same client is now paying £1,500, all because of who he was and how he was presented and how he managed to handle that conversation. Look, it's the same clients. It's the same service. It's the same person delivering it. The only thing that changed was how he positioned it and how he priced it and how he showed up in that conversation. This isn't a tactic. It's just what happens when the architecture is right from the beginning, from the foundations, and when the identity has finally caught up, and then everything else will flow from above, up from above. The sales, the marketing, the offer, the team management, everything will flow so much nicely after that. More revenue, less work, because the team and the systems that we implemented beforehand were doing what we designed them to do. And so now his personal involvement in all of these accounts were brought back down to a minimum. So we also mapped out the next phase on this particular call. Higher tiers, higher price points, incorporating ads management now as part of a premium add-on, one-off content shoots as just the entry points for future retainers. It was all about involving himself alongside the business because he, again, like I said, everyone's situation is different. So the tactics and the advice given to everyone differs between them. And that's how it should work, because the more you change your perceptions of how business should be ran, the ideas, the goals you might have, that will change as you've had the first two clients like at £500 a month and the next two clients on 1k a month. You need to understand how it all works and what the packaging should change to become more valuable for your clients and to now match the pricing to your expertise and the proof that you've developed and the capacity that you can only take on to allow you to grow. Now, on this call, we also mapped out the next stage, and it was all about evolving alongside the business because that's how it should work. Your offer should essentially become more valuable and more expensive over time because your proof and your capacity will grow by then. If you're still staying in the same price point 6 or 8 months later, but you're still acquiring new clients, then you're just falling back into the same trap of allowing your costs to go up, allowing your time in the business to go up, but still reaping low profit margins, low revenue for what you should be getting instead. So let's go now into September. The numbers where he finally hit 10k plus per month. I'll be so honest, this is what matters more than the number, because literally off of organic content alone, clients were finding him. No paid ads, no cold outreach, no warm outreach, just content. Now remember in March, his page was all graphics, all outdated content, no face, no video, no proof. 6 months later, every time he posted a certain story sequence that we've shown him, and this was a case of showing what he was working on, what results looked like for the clients, and what his process involved, he got an inquiry every single fucking time. Now that's not luck, because when you've been doing this for 6 years, you know exactly what will sell, what clients will buy it, no matter what the niche. So all he had to do was just plug and play our systems in, and he just literally got it cracking. Now, if I can help you understand how that was possible, it's literally allowing your content to communicate 3 things. Outcome. Can you clearly solve my problem? Now you have to think of it from the ICP's perspective. Now if they see your content and they need to understand, is there a clear defined outcome from seeing your content? Can you clearly solve my problem? Next is the method. Do you have a real approach that's different to what I've seen already online? And the last part is you. Can I trust you as a person? Because if all I can see is just your work and I'm not seeing a single snippet or video of you talking or you on BTS or who the actual owner is, then how can you trust me? Or how can you expect me to trust you and buy 15 2K retainers off of that? You simply can't. His content was demonstrating all three without him consciously engineering it. He didn't have to think twice about doing it. It was all embedded into his content strategy plan for the 6 months that we worked together. And it made this so much easier for him because the foundations were set from the get-go. And the team, they were fully operational, full-time team members handling the day-to-day. The videographers and the photographers were on retainers. They were managing the workload, not just doing the work. The revenue had more than doubled. The hours hadn't increased. And if anything, they'd gone down. And that is the whole point. Building a business that serves your lifestyle and not you having to chase the business and staying up late, doing these dumb hours at night, not spending time with your family, not spending time actually enjoying God's gift to us with time on this earth, enjoying the fruits and the labors of your hard work. So let me zoom out and give you the 5 shifts that actually made this transformation happen. Now, operations before acquisition. We didn't chase new clients first. We built the team structure and the financial foundation so that when clients did come in, that model can actually handle everything without it collapsing. Second is the offer architecture, from one underpriced package to tiered options that sold outcomes, not deliverables, because when you have pricing that reflects the value of working with a team and not the desperation of just a freelancer, the conversations will change. Second is the content repositioning, from a very graphic heavy page with no personality to a video led profile that actually communicated his proof, his process and his authority with a named mechanism that will separate his unique selling point from everyone else in his niche. Shift 4 was the financial structure, so having a proper salary and dividend setup, the cash flow targets, hiring triggers that are tied to the margins of when the business will hit the next milestones and not just kind of winging it of when you feel like you should need the next hire. Every decision financially was planned before it was made. And lastly, identity correction. From I hope they say yes at £500 to now confidently understanding why clients should be happy to be closed at £1,500 within half an hour of having a conversation with them and knowing that you are still undercharging because you are worth way more. Now look, none of these are hacks. Not once did I say ever he went viral to actually aid him, because he didn't. He only had a couple of hundred followers. It's all architecture installed in sequence over the period of 6 months. Now here is where 90% of you videographers and agency owners watching this will misapply what I've just flipping shown you. You will think, right, I need to raise my prices, have someone cheap overseas and post more videos. You're going to try to do all of this at once without sequencing, without the financial planning, without structuring the offer, without fixing your positioning. And it's not going to stick because you're going to just chuck all of this on the wall and it's just going to pop off one by one off and just fall on the floor. Because if your positioning is weak, if your delivery is chaotic and your acquisition is unstable, and more importantly, your identity is fragile, pricing alone is not going to save you, my friend. Everything has to move in order, in the right order, at the right time. That's the difference between knowing the pieces and knowing how to install them. Now look, if you're sitting at 3 to 5K a month right now, working 40, 50 hours a week, charging under £1,000, overworking your ass off, you don't have a revenue problem. Quite clearly, we've spoken about it and we've gone through the journey of Atiq. It's evident that you have a structural problem. And the longer you stay in that boat, the longer you stay on that train, the harder it is going to be for you to get out of that. Because look, I get it. I've been there. 5K months, they feel safe. You're busy enough to get by, but it's not painful enough to fix. Now, Atiq's story isn't special because of talent. He was already talented, and most of you guys watching already are as well in that position. He was already getting results. He was already working harder than most people ever will. The beautiful thing that changed was the architecture around his talent. Inside the 6-month program of Agency Roadmap, we don't start by telling you to just post more content, do more outreach. We start by actually diagnosing where your model is broken. Then we will install the infrastructure. Then we will fix your offer. Then we will fix your operations, your strategy, your finances, your identity in the actual sequence that works for your specific condition and your specific situation. Because what Atiq needed in month 1 was way different to what he needed in month 3, in month 6. And that is the situation with everyone, because as business develops, you'll face these different bottlenecks and you'll come across these different problems, but doing it solo, you're just going to completely fuck it up. Now look, if you watch this and you recognize your own situation, it's time to take that leap forward and get to work. Only so much will come from watching these videos, from watching all of the other coaches or the other YouTubers you're watching and the books that you're reading, until you actually know how to apply it. You need the architecture. and that is what I help install. So if you want to know exactly how this is installed for you, then just drop me a DM on Instagram and I'll send out a message back to you and I'll share exactly how we can do that. Now, if you found this valuable, let me know in the comments, because I'm getting into the flow of these breakdowns and these videos. Atiq unfortunately couldn't get on a testimonial because I would have loved to get him on and share his experience, but it's because he's really busy with his family. He's just come back from holiday, he's growing, he's doing his things, so I don't want to disturb him too much. But I'll drop his tags and everything in the description below, so you guys can have a look at his page if you want to have a look at him, ask him whatever questions you have. And if you are a videographer or an agency owner and you are in this situation, just drop a comment of what the biggest bottleneck you're facing right now. Let's have a conversation, and I'll catch you in the next one.